Hi, this is Eric Busey, and today I'm going to present on manipulated video, media savvy in the 2020 presidential election, looking at one of the videos that was targeted at Joe Biden and the consequences on viewer perceptions. I'm a professor of strategic communication at Texas Tech University. Got a lot of slides, so I'm going to go through this relatively quickly, but I presume you can go back and watch this and pause on the slides if you want to read everything there. So I'm going to keep it all the content there. So first of all, we've got the specter of deepfakes now, which is a video where there's an impersonation of a politician or a public figure, but it's not actually their words at all. This is a form, in a broader sense, of manipulated video, which turns out to be even more common than deepfakes. Deepfakes were really met with a moral panic over the last couple of years, and we really expected them to be prominent in the 2020 election. However, they weren't. Very interesting phenomenon. But the scare and the concern over deepfakes really was reminiscent of some of the early negative advertising. It reminded me of the Daisy ad that Lyndon Johnson, LBJ, used against Barry Goldwater in the 1964 US presidential campaign, where Johnson actually showed a nuke going off, and it kind of visually kind of comes out of this girl's eye and is really seen as a stark contrast between life and innocence, or death and destruction. And it was only aired once. So the effect was really more strategic and more for its shock value, and reverberated afterwards in the form of mainstream news coverage. This is what we see a lot with deepfakes and manipulated video. So far, what are some of the manipulated video moments? Well, the phrase Sleepy Joe comes from a manipulated video where they took some video of him looking down at his notes and then edited it to make it appear, and slowed it down to make it appear like he was almost nodding off during an interview. You have attacks against Nancy Pelosi, where the video is also slowed down and she's made to appear drunk and slurring her words. You've also got cases where the video is sped up, such as the so-called aggressive CNN correspondent Jim Acosta during a White House press briefing. And one of the aides actually tried to take his microphone away. They edited the video to make it look like he chopped down on her arm. And then, of course, you've got more recently a attack video against Biden where words were put into the mouth of an interviewer, and they call it the Defund the Police interview. And that's the one we're actually studying. So let me just keep moving quick here. Here's an example of the Jim Acosta video. This makes major news headlines. This is online. You can watch it. And it's also spread through a lot of alt media. Here's the fake video, the slowed down video of Nancy Pelosi was slowed by 75%. She appears intoxicated. It's released on social media and receives 2 million views before being deleted and labeled only as partly false by Facebook. Here's the video of the activist Addie Barkan, who interviewed Joe Biden in late August, and his words were kind of contrived, where they put in for police, that made it appear that Biden would be really against continued funding of police. So manipulations in video aren't new. We've seen this basically since the rise of TV advertising all the way back to the 1950s in US campaigns. And the question now becomes, in the current context, well, what effects do these have? So I expect partisanship's going to filter responses to these videos. This phenomenon of motivated reasoning should prevail. And what we test in this study is both original interviews of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, as well as repackaged attack ads, one which included the words that were never said for the police, and the other one, an undoctored version, where they took it out after there was an objection. So to me, it was very much planned that they almost had a cleaner version ready to go, the next day. So another expectation is that media savvy viewers are going to be better able to identify and spot these things and therefore be not as influenced by it. Here's all the details of the experiment. I'll let you look at this. There are basically 4 video conditions. Here they are. The original interviews are on the left. The attack ads are on the right. The original one was a little bit longer and had that that addition of the 4 police comment. The subsequent one was a little bit shorter and took out that comment. Now, when you show these to partisans, and we had roughly an equal number of Republicans, Democrats, and independents, our overall N was about 260. So we're looking at 80 or 85 people per group, that the people who rate the manipulated video the highest are Republicans, and they rate it even higher than the video that doesn't include that little edit. So there's an emotional truth that seems to be operating, whereas it's working a lot less for independents and, of course, Democrats. And you move along, and now you're looking at the favorability rating of this clip. And here, again, for the attack video that did include that statement for police, defunding of police, that still is considered an emotional truth and is rated favorably by Republicans, much less so for Democrats and independents, particularly independents. And independents also rate the original Biden and Pelosi interviews higher. And of course, Democrats rate it very high. If you look at the correlation between news knowledge, which is media savvy, and the evaluation of these clips, what you see is the more that you know about the operation of mainstream media, the lower your evaluation. So media sophisticates are able to see through this and see it for the manipulation that it is, whereas people who don't have media savvy and can't tell you how the news actually works are much more likely to rate it high. We find the same thing for political knowledge and clip believability, but you see an unevenness here and not quite as steep a decline. So even people in the mid-range of political knowledge are still rating the believability of a doctored clip pretty high, which is kind of startling. So to us, media savvy seems to be a better filter of accurately acknowledging or seeing the manipulation. Now here is, again, the 3-party kind of breakout, but now we're asking for a clip evaluation of the original Biden interview. Democrats rate it high. Republicans, particularly with news knowledge, high level, rate it extremely low. And independents, although with a high level of news knowledge, rate it much higher. So this is interesting interaction between partisanship and understanding about the media. It really does seem to matter. And it's not just a uniform effect depending on party. It really depends on other factors as well. So finally, we get to the clip evaluation for the attack video that was included the phrase for police. And here's the really interesting and concerning thing, which was even for Democrats. This is an attack against Biden, even for Democrats, but those who are low in news knowledge, they rate it almost as high as Republicans. And independents, it's the same thing. If you're low in news knowledge, you tend to rate it high. You can't see through it. You can't see it for what it is. And those with, we know this because those who are high in news knowledge rate it much lower. It comports with common sense. So just to conclude, we're seeing a lot of examples of this, but in the final stretches of the 2020 campaign, it really came under control because Facebook and Twitter decided to label these and even remove some of them that were too egregious in their portrayal. So basically, the manipulation war moved to smaller channels, local channels, and more direct attempts through text and other ways that you couldn't really see. So in the big platforms, it wasn't as problematic as we thought it was going to be. And also, these preliminary results show that there's really a pronounced effect for media novices. So there's a lot of work left to be done, but I think the early and kind of consistent message against the desirability of these things really did discourage their use in 2020. So if you have some time, go back and look at my full presentation, not rushed quite like this, even though I went over time, and I hope you find it interesting. If you have any questions, just be sure to email me or even send me a note on Twitter. Thanks much.